Hi, everybody. This is immigration lawyer John Khosravi coming to you live this Sunday night, 8:37 p.m. Pacific time, probably 11:37 Eastern. But we got people watching this all over the place, so we're getting on live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. I forgot to turn on the TikTok feed, so I'm gonna get that started right now. But we're taking your questions live. I had some time right now. Had a busy day today, but there are things quiet in the house. I'm like, let me just go online and answer some questions. General education only about U.S. immigration law. Again, I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. Our firm helps married couples and families, people with extraordinary abilities, get EB-1A and NIWs, and also small-time investors. People starting a small business, the E2, or a small company making a subsidiary here, or a sister company here, L1. Those are the kind of people we help eventually get EB-1A green cards on that. So shoot out your questions, and we'll see what we can do. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the immigration space, a lot of scary stuff, and it is really scary. But it's a situation we're dealing with over here, and we're doing our best to help people. Hi, Chris. Good to see you. We're doing our best to help people get some better understanding of what's going on to prep themselves. And unfortunately, to a certain extent, in some cases, nobody knows what's going on, even the government. So they're making it up as they go forward. So sometimes we gotta think what's the safest thing we can do for people, and we'll talk about that as the questions pop up. So feel free to shoot out your questions here on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, or YouTube. Best place is probably YouTube Ask Questions because it's more coordinated, the system we have. TikTok gets a little crazy, too many questions, too many repeat questions. But again, we'll try our best to answer some general educational questions about U.S. immigration law, green cards, visas, work authorization, and the like. Carlos, thanks for joining. Sean, thanks for joining. We're starting to show up, getting some new viewers coming in. Typically, we have a live show every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern. You can rely on that one. So follow wherever you're watching, especially on YouTube. You'll get notifications. AQK Law or U.S. Immigration Talk, that's the place you can find it. And go there. Also, if you're interested in doing a marriage or a fiance case, you have a guide called the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide, 50 plus pages of guidance. The website for it to download for free is marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Again, that's marriageimmigrationlaw.com. And if you want to schedule a private consultation, please go to jqklaw.com/contact. That's jqklaw.com/contact. Okay, so let's see what's going on right now. Usually we have a billion questions. Then again, it's the middle of the night on Sunday, so it's a little bit different. Might give it a short show today. The bright news is that the getting green card interviews for most cases has really sped up in the United States. If you're going for adjustment of status and your case is current, the timeline to be able to get it has gone fast a lot. Myron says, is it better to apply for a green card approved asylum immediately or wait 1 year and apply? So somewhere in between. So once you have asylum, you could file for a green card, but for the green card to be approved, at least 1 year has to have passed from the time you file for asylum. If you do it too early, they may mistakenly approve the green card too early, and then they'll realize the error, then have to take it back. It's messy. If you wait a full year, you just waited too long because you could have probably filed sooner, especially because if you're applying for a green card based on having been a asylee, there's already delays in that case. So maybe wait 6 or 7 months and keep an eye out that your case doesn't get approved too quickly, which probably won't. But I don't file asylum adjustment of status green card cases on a daily basis. It's not the number one thing that we do. So I'd have to, if you schedule a consultation, we have to do more research, see what's the newest news. I haven't filed one of those in more than 6 months. Chris asks, currently on 48-month extension, my green card, is it too risky to travel, seeing as my physical green card is expired? No, Chris, if you have that receipt notice 48 months and it's nowhere near 48 months has happened on it, that in the expired green card is fine. It's not risky. What could happen is sometimes when it kind of come back in, the airlines don't understand it, but normally nowadays they will, especially places that you're probably going to travel to. And I mean, you don't, assuming you don't have any criminal history, all that kind of stuff, arrests or DUIs in the past or accusation of drugs, all that kind of stuff, then no, it's not a big deal. But always just for that kind of stuff, schedule, reach out to me and we'll talk about it in private to get more longer kind of stuff. But thanks for your question. Proudinia says, what's the time for I-130 and I-485 from Visa Center? That question doesn't make sense because if you're using the National Visa Center, which I'm assuming you're saying, you don't need an I-485. And then also, what kind of I-130 petition is it? So there's too many variables that exist there. What country are you from? I'm guessing Indian because they're probably Indian. But your question just doesn't have enough info for us to be able to begin to really answer it. Mustafa, is it okay and any benefit to upload unsolicited evidence in the USCIS on an account? Typically, and USCIS typically doesn't want you to upload unsolicited evidence unless there's a particular need for it. So it's impossible for me to give generalized advice because let's say you forgot an important document, then yeah, you should 100% submit it. But if you want to send some other documents not as important, I think about it. Plus, people sometimes send crazy stuff they shouldn't send. So not knowing what the document is, what kind of case you have, I can't really say. So as a general policy, it depends. That's what the lawyers have to say. So it's not specific enough for me to answer that, but I think I drew some picture for you that if it's an urgent document, then definitely. If it's not important or unrelated, then maybe not. But it really depends on what the need for the document is. And inevitably nowadays they want you to upload everything, so it may be necessary, but I don't want to give any guidance on whether you should do that or not because I don't know what the specific document that you need to upload is and what kind of case you have because people upload stuff that hurts their case. And so I don't want something crazy like that to happen. Dan says, green card holder studying abroad. I traveled before every 6 months. Should I be worried? I mean, worried is, probably not, but definitely don't be outside for more than 6 months. Prefer you apply for a reentry permit the next time you come and try to just get it done. Don't be outside for more than a year for sure. That's going to create more problems than you need. RMZ asks, naturalized citizen coming back with 2 misdemeanors from 16 years ago. You need to talk to the immigration attorney as soon as possible. Hopefully you have one already to see what those misdemeanors are, what they show up in the record, the conviction record, because they're going to question you about that. And depending on what they are, they may have let it slide before, but it might come back now. If you're naturalized, they probably know about it. But RMZ, that's criminal history, so that's really specific stuff that needs a consultation session. You need the records of the case, what happened, to be able to explain it, and all that kind of stuff. So you're probably okay, but not having read your documents or reviewed your case, I can't say. Muhammad asks, how long would it take for an oath ceremony to be scheduled after a name change request in the Valley office after the interview approval? So typically in the Valley office, they do like same-day oath ceremonies. If you want to do a name change, I don't know, because most clients don't bother doing that because a name change requires a judge to be there, and I'm not sure how scheduling a judge when that's going to work. So but I don't know. RZS, how much for consultation? We don't talk fees here. Please go to our website, jqqlaw.com/contact, and we'll respond with you once you briefly fill out the box about what your case and question are about. Again, the website is jqqlaw.com/contact. All right, everyone who's new coming in, we're taking your questions about U.S. immigration live. And answering it to best educational responses that we give, not knowing your individual situation and not giving individual legal guidance. We'll be here for another 10 minutes or so. So if you want a question, get it in. Amina asks, hello, so my husband is in Afghanistan. Since there's no embassy, where can I transfer his interview? Technically, Afghans could go to any embassy, but usually it's too difficult, so they go to Pakistan. That's where most of these cases happen. Al-Akar says, for the I-751, I would say average processing time somewhere between 6 months and 3 years. It's a huge average. So that's that, but it takes a long time. Most of our cases, people have been married with U.S. citizens and living with them, so they can file for citizenship 3 years after getting the green card. As such, the I-751 case will still be pending, and they'll just have a citizenship interview, and they knock out both of them at the same time. Now, for those who don't know, an I-751 is removal of conditions. These are people who got their green card based on marriage. The marriage was relatively new when the green card was approved, so 2 years after getting the green card, they got to file another application to then re-show again that the marriage is real, because U.S. immigration is really strict. People think this, I get this really, I think I have to say it's a dumb comment I see all the time. Millions of people have fake marriages. It's so hard to do a fake marriage. The government cracks down on this. You have removal conditions at the citizenship stage. Multiple levels are asking questions about this. There's not a widespread situation that like crazy, like people are doing fake marriages. Umar asks, I'm divorced green card holder based on marriage, don't have criminal record, and going to apply for naturalization for 5 years. Don't have much evidence, only one lease contract picks and a few utility bills. Is it okay to apply for this naturalization? Well, I can't give you individual legal guidance because I'm not your attorney. I don't know your whole case. But if you're doing a 5-year green card, they're not going to go too much in your relationship. But I don't know how much original documentation you gave. I don't know your relationship history, how you met, and all that kind of stuff. What the circumstances were afterwards. I've never seen your divorce certificate. So really, if you're worried about that, definitely schedule a private consultation. I have a detailed YouTube video where I talk about what we do at our naturalization consultation. So I recommend watching that. It's on our YouTube page, JQK Law or U.S. Immigration Talk, whichever one you search for. But typically, they don't necessarily go into your history, but it depends on your history and it depends on how well you handle questions. So that's why I got to talk with you to see how, some people can't answer questions. They get really nervous and that looks bad. But if you answer 1 or 2 questions really smoothly, and like, okay, the officer just be like, okay, it's probably good. So it really depends on how well you answer and the luck plays a role into too, which officer you get. But schedule a private consultation. We'll get into more detail. Amina follows up. So should I reach out to the embassy and see where they Afghan? Once your case gets sent to the National Visa Center, they'll automatically schedule one. It's most likely to be in Pakistan. But as I said, they're flexible. Afghans are orphaned orphan applicants because they don't have embassy there. They're flexible to do it everywhere. But one problem happens: how much does it cost to travel to other countries? That can be an issue. And secondly, it's a language. So do they speak that language when he goes there? Maybe if you go to Tajikistan or Kazakhstan, maybe Tajikistan, because they speak Farsi there. If your husband's a Farsi speaker, that'd be the easiest place to go. But it's flexibility. It's not like where they will take the Afghan. It's like they'll probably just automatically put it in Pakistan, but you could ask them to put other places that are comfortable for you. And usually listen. Dakar says, in my area, it shows 24 months and 407 months. I haven't heard anything yet. So the timelines for USCIS are completely unreliable. So don't bother looking at them. It's a worthless thing to look at. Jatindar says, is there a time limit as to how long you can apply for I-485 after coming in on I-7730 as derivative asylee? So I don't do these cases often, but one of them is if you're a derivative, you got to do it before you're over 21 or something like that. But there's a thing called nunc-pro-tunc that backs your date up. It's kind of technical because I don't do it every day. I prefer to just have a private consultation talk about that rather than a public forum like this, because it's just, again, once every 2 years I'll do a case like that. It's not like something I do every day. Muhammad says, our citizen cases are also going faster lately. Thank you. To a certain extent, but they said they're going to be slowing them down because they're taking away citizenship officers to do other things. So right now it's relatively faster for citizenship, but it's probably going to slow down. Mano asks, good evening. I'm from India. My husband filed F2A in July 2022. My priority date is current according to Visa Bulletin, but I didn't get any approval yet. It's about 3 years. Our approval is paused. You won't get approval. You have to do an interview. So it's really more about the embassy having spot to do an interview for you. And then once you go to interview, then worry about approval. So it really is just how backed up the embassy is. Pei says, is there any concern about traveling to Iran for dual citizen at this time? Do you have any recommendation for that? I don't recommend traveling. There's no specific reason, but the way things are going, I can't say go do it, but there's nothing specific I could say. But you never know with the government on their own what they're going to do. I haven't heard issues. But, right now, Iran's a bad situation. Lou Aguilar says, can the I-130 approve on a 20-year marriage still continue if the marriage might get divorced? No, if you get divorced, then it's done. So you got to stay married and have a legitimate marriage. Just because you're married for a long time, it doesn't mean it'll stay valid case if you get divorced. You're welcome, Dakar. Now, if there's like abuse or something like that, I might be able to do a VAWA case, but it really depends on the facts. PS says, question, with driver's license, can you travel through the airports right now in this administration? I don't recommend traveling if you don't have status right now in this administration. Oscar says, signed voluntary leave in 2010, came back using California ID waived through by the agent, qualified for Kelantan. I mean, you can argue that. It's up to them. And they could argue that that the problem you snuck in and then accuse you of all sorts of problems. So that's a risky situation. I've never been a fan of arguing Kelantan. What it is if you're going to file for a green card in the United States, adjustment of status, you have to show you enter lawfully in most cases. And they have one thing where if the government just waved you in at the border, they'll consider lawful entry. But if you don't have good evidence, which is hard to get, they'll say, no, we don't believe you. And then they might say you snuck in. And after having voluntary removal, whatever, be out of leave, you come in without permission, that looks really bad and they could detain you and it gets nasty. Lou Aguilar says divorce would be the citizen being unfaithful. But faithfulness doesn't make a difference to what we're doing here, what you're trying to do. Now, if they're abusive to you, extreme abuse, physical or mental, that could be something called the Violence Against Women's Act, which applies to men too. The name is misleading. But VAWA, VAWA for short, Violence Against Women's Act, something to look into, again, if there is abuse, that's true abuse, physical abuse, or mental abuse. All right, we'll take a couple more questions, and we'll call it a night. Again, I'm Immigration Lawyer John Khosravi. If you have any questions, comments, let them out here. If not, we'll be back again Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, Los Angeles time, or 7 p.m. Eastern time, New York time. You're welcome, Lou Aguilar. Rofi says, is it more lucrative in corporate M&A and syndication law or injury law, personal injury law? It depends on how successful you are. Both of them could be very lucrative jobs. And I mean, lucrative is like how much of your life you want to put just to practicing law all day, every day, and dealing with that stuff. So it's all relative. Shoot out your question about U.S. immigration. We'll do one more. We just hit the 15-minute mark, so that's about how long I wanted to go tonight. But if anyone has one more question, we'll sneak it in. If not, thank you so much for joining us. I'm immigration lawyer John Kasravi. If you want to schedule a private consultation, go to our site, jqklaw.com/contact. Silent Tear says, sir, I'm from a banned country. I already have an approved I-129. I think you want F, maybe fiance. Can I wait? You could, if it's I-129 F fiance, waiting is probably going to not be a good idea. So that's that. Lorraine says, if USC, U.S. citizen, previously filed for ex-spouse, should they file for current spouse or likely to be denied? People sometimes get divorced and refile for a new foreign person. I never had them denied before, but Lorena, we got to see your whole situation to see how bad or good the previous one looked, what the evidence of the new relationship is, to show you're not just trying to run some business to make money off, give green cards away. No offense, that's what they're thinking if they're going to think that way. So we got to see what was the history of the previous one, what happened that you met, what evidence did you have in the previous relationship, and then what happened that it broke up, and how long has it been since you broke up, divorce records, all that kind of stuff. And then how'd you meet this new person? So we got to legitimize it. Just make sure you show that's a legitimate relationship, what documents you have. So you definitely should have an immigration lawyer on that one, Lorena. Please schedule a consultation, jqklaw.com/contact. Joey says, I've been waiting since December 2023. Is that normal? I don't know what kind of case you have. Just tell you what's normal or not. Rofi says, any regional area like New York better for law firm partnerships? Again, like it's different. Like, yeah, New York might have more certain things, but then like it might cost more living. Then depends on how well you are as a lawyer. What school did you go to if you're new, or like how well you could bring business in, or how sharp you are. It doesn't really matter. Those things, like the reality is, like if you're good at what you do and you know how to bring a business, the practice area you have or the city where it doesn't matter. That's why it's more important to have skills for bringing marketing and sales and running a business, and talking and all that kind of stuff. And then make it to area they're comfortable with talking about doing all day. So if you want to do corporate M&As, be sure you're into corporate M&As. So you don't want to jump off a building after 10 years doing it. You might be a millionaire, but you hate your life. So you got to think more long term than that. This is too short term thinking. If you just think about, okay, I want to make money and an M&A attorney in New York, that's like it's going to lead to your become an alcoholic. Oscar Flores says, I submitted a 6-1 waiver for adjustment. I received notice from USCIS to receive. How long approval? No, I have no idea. Those things could take a long time sometimes. Previous ones 10 years ago, Lorena, that's good. That's better, but you should document it so they don't have to come back and say that previous one's weird. So more documentation, the better. Lex Luthor says, I filed I-90, corrected my green card. Where do I send my old green card? It should have been sent with the original case. If not, they'll RFE you for it. So you should hold on to it until they send a request for evidence. Joey Vader says, I-130 spouse for visa for my wife in Brazil. Okay, you got to ask the question, Joey. So Rofi saying says, speaking of family law, say your partner is expecting lucrative pension retirement. How is split upon retirement? So for Rofi, this is to help people about U.S. immigration, not about like practicing a practice area I have no idea about. I'm an immigration attorney, so we don't want to take any like how to business of law questions as people have immigration issues. So with that, let's call it a day. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great Sunday night. Have a great, wonderful week. Have a positive start to it. Sunday night's the beginning of the week. God bless, be safe, and have a powerful one. I know a lot of crazy stuff's going to happen, as it always does in our country. But stay strong, be righteous, and help those around you. And just keep your circle nice and happy and cared for, and that'll reverberate everywhere. Hope I did a little bit of that tonight. God bless everyone. Be safe, and I'll see you all Tuesday. Bye-bye.